To query the Uniswap router via API, you need to understand the basics of Uniswap and its API endpoints. Uniswap is a decentralized exchange protocol that allows users to trade Ethereum tokens. The Uniswap API provides access to market data, token prices, and trading functionality. First, you need to choose an API endpoint that provides the data you need. The Uniswap API has several endpoints, including the protocol endpoint, the pairs endpoint, and the tokens endpoint. For example, if you want to get the current price of a token, you would use the tokens endpoint. Next, you need to construct the API request. This involves specifying the endpoint, the HTTP method, and any required parameters. For example, to get the current price of the ETH/USDC pair, you would send a GET request to the pairs endpoint with the pair address as a parameter. You can use programming languages like Python or JavaScript to send the API request. For example, in Python, you can use the requests library to send a GET request to the Uniswap API. You would import the requests library, specify the API endpoint and parameters, and then send the request using the GET method. Once you have sent the request, you need to parse the response data. The Uniswap API returns data in JSON format, so you can use a JSON parser to extract the data you need. For example, if you are using Python, you can use the JSON library to parse the response data. Best practices for querying the Uniswap router via API include handling errors and exceptions, caching responses to reduce the number of requests, and using secure authentication methods to protect your API key. You should also be aware of the API usage limits and terms of service to avoid having your API key revoked. In summary, querying the Uniswap router via API involves choosing an API endpoint, constructing the API request, sending the request, parsing the response data, and following best practices to handle errors and exceptions. By following these steps, you can access market data and trading functionality on the Uniswap protocol.